You ain't bout it, you ain't bout it, you ain't kick on the mic. You ain't bout it, you ain't bout it, you ain't kick on the mic. You can go and subscribe, cause I be on it right. You ain't bout it, you ain't bout it, you ain't kick on the mic.
Shots were definitely fired towards the Chicago Bears on the show Get Up today. Hey, what's going on, Bears fans? Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of KIEQ on the Mic, the podcast all about the Chicago Bears. As always, if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the notification to catch all Bears content right here on the podcast. Bears fans, make sure you also do me a huge favor by also hitting the like button on today's episode of KIEQ on the Mic. Bears fans, before I go any further with today's episode of KIEQ on the Mic, and we really have a really good discussion to talk about on today's episode of KIEQ on the Mic, I do want to let you guys know that I have something really big coming, really awesome for the Chicago Bears community. I feel like all Bears fans are going to be able to get around this. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but all I know is that it's going to be huge for the Chicago Bears community. It's going to be something fun for us to enjoy, especially when the Chicago Bears win. I will have this out hopefully in the next week or two, and I'll make a big announcement. Not only all my social media platforms, but also on my YouTube community page as well. But I know that you guys are going to love it. So Bears fans, I don't even really know how to start with today's video, but the first thing I want to say is that shots were definitely fired towards the Chicago Bears on the show Get Up. I watch the show Get Up probably every other day, and it happens to find out that when I'm watching it today, they were talking about the Chicago Bears and expectations, you know, not only for Caleb Williams, they're also talking about Jayden Daniels with the Washington Commanders, just talking about the quarterbacks in general from the 2024 NFL Draft. There was a couple of things that really caught my attention, and I just want to give you guys my opinion. I also want to get your guys' opinion on today's episode of KIEQ on the Mic. The first thing I noticed is what was from Booger McFarland. Everyone knows Booger. Everyone loves or hates Booger McFarland. But McFarland had this to say: I think Caleb Williams is going to struggle, and Jayden Daniels is going to come out flying. Bart Scott also added on Get Up on this segment, said they can't let Eberflus ruin two QBs. So what I'm going to do right now is I want you guys to watch the full conversation. So I'm going to go ahead and play the audio clip from what they were talking about on the show Get Up. Check this out, Bears fans.
Midway through the season, we're having a conversation very similar to what we had last year, meaning the number 2 pick, Jayden Daniels, looks better than the number 1 pick, Caleb Williams. Just like we had last year with C.J. Stroud and Bryce Young, because there are a lot of people out of Washington telling me that this young man, Jayden Daniels, not only does he look the part, his teammates know he looked the part. And I think Caleb Williams is going to struggle. And I think Jayden Daniels is going to come out the gate flying.
When the Commanders drafted Jayden Daniels, and there were a lot of people on this show, on the draft the night I hosted it, and other things, who felt he was the better prospect to begin with.
I would just like to temper expectations a little bit for the Chicago Bears. I think he's a rookie quarterback. Both these guys are rookies. This is a franchise that has not yet shown it can develop a quarterback the right way. A lot of people thought Matt Eberflus wouldn't survive this offseason. He wouldn't be the head coach. So let's give him some time.
You ask yourself, who do you trust more, Cliff Kingsbury developing a quarterback or Matt Eberflus who's coaching for his job? Because if this goes sideways early, it's going to be no room for error because they're going to see we're not going to allow him to destroy 2 young quarterbacks. So you talk about, Jayden Daniels just getting started. Caleb Williams is going to have it easy because he can rely on his talent on his team. So he's going to be able to probably have to play more discipline, handing the ball off, leaning on his veterans, don't try to do too much. They're going to spoon feed him. Jayden Daniels is probably going to be set free early because he's going to have to rely and do everything because he's on probably a team that's less talented, and he's going to have to be able to rely on that athleticism. And that flash and that dual threat is always going to catch our eyes first.
When you started talking and mentioned Matt Eberflus, he's had several quarterbacks to this point. I think in Chicago, the pressure is high. They can't have a season where the rookie quarterback doesn't come off and start off hot and the team is losing.
I would say this. You look at Houston, and there's a guy, their offensive coordinator, Bobby Slug, who got a lot of interviews this cycle around. And if Houston is able to have success and we see C.J. Stroud play at the level that he's able to play, and with their schedule, if he's able to get through it, we're talking about an MVP candidate potentially. I can see a guy like Bobby Slowik going to be the head coach if things don't work out in Chicago and working with a young Caleb Williams in that offensive system.
Bears fans, there is so many different moving parts here and so many different angles that we can take when we're responding to what Booger McFarland and some of the other analysts had to say while on this segment of Get Up. But first and foremost, to Booger McFarland, his only reasoning for Jayden Daniels, the number 2 overall pick in the 2024 NFL draft, being better than Caleb Williams, the number 1 overall pick in the 2024 NFL draft, is basically relating to last year when CJ Stroud came out and was better than Bryce Young. My first comment to that, argument from Booger McFarland on Get Up is that you have to look at the different situations. I truly feel at the end of the day, when you look at the season, especially last year, CJ Stroud was in a way better situation in terms of coaching. I know he had a couple of players really step up to the plate to really allow him to blossom there in Houston. But overall, when you look at the end of the day, especially last season, CJ Stroud was in a way better situation than Bryce Young was going into with the Carolina Panthers. Everyone knows that the Carolina Panthers were the worst team in football last season. So I'll just leave it at that. When you're looking at this season, because he brought up the fact that how midway through the season or maybe even early in the season, they're going to have that conversation that did the Chicago Bears make the right choice in drafting quarterback Caleb Williams? It always happens, right? Every year, there's going to be this conversation saying that whoever took the best quarterback, whoever had the number 1 overall pick, and if that pick was the quarterback, that is always going to come up as an argument, especially if Jayden Daniels comes out and I guess outshines Caleb Williams. First and foremost, I'll say this to you, Bears fans. If you took 10 general managers, I'm not even going to say 32. If you asked 10 general managers if they had the number 1 overall pick, who would they select? I would put a lot of my money on that. At least 9 of those 10 GMs, if not all 10 of those GMs, would say that they would select quarterback Caleb Williams out of USC. And that is no disrespect to Jayden Daniels. I think he is an outstanding player. I think he is going to be that dual threat quarterback. He has good arm talent. I think he's going to be really good down the road for the Washington Commanders. But if you ask 10 general managers of who they would have selected if they were in Ryan Poles and the Chicago Bears shoes, if they had the number 1 overall pick, I guarantee you that at least 9 of those GMs would have said that they would take quarterback Caleb Williams. Coming out of college, Caleb Williams was the clear-cut number 1 overall pick by basically everyone. All the scouts were all in agreement that Caleb Williams was one of the best prospects they've seen since Andrew Luck. So when you look at that, Ryan Poles and the Chicago Bears made the right decision. Caleb Williams is also ultra athletic. He's not as athletic as Jayden Daniels, but he can definitely run as well. He's ultra athletic. He has a huge arm, right there with Jayden Daniels, probably even better than Jayden Daniels, right? When you look at, the person that Caleb Williams is, I'm not saying Jayden Daniels isn't a good person off the field, but I think when you look at all the moving parts, right, Caleb Williams was the right pick for the Chicago Bears. Also with Booger McFarland saying that he can see Jayden Daniels coming out of the gate and being better than Caleb Williams. He can see Caleb Williams struggle. I will say this once again, referring back to how we were talking about CJ Stroud and Bryce Young being in the situations they were in. I feel that Caleb Williams, I've said this before, Caleb Williams is in a way better situation than Jayden Daniels, right? And that is a solid point. That is a point that Bart Scott brought up. He basically said, Bart Scott said, Caleb Williams won't have to be Superman. He just has to play disciplined football and take care of the football. He has DeAndre Swift in the backfield. You have Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, and Roma Odunze on the outside. And that's not even counting Cole Kmet and Gerald Everett. That is an amazing situation for Caleb Williams and the Chicago Bears. When you look at Jayden Daniels, you have a dumpster fire in the Washington Commanders. They are starting the rebuilding process. Yes, you have Terry McLaurin. You have a couple of solid pieces on the defensive side of the football as well. But when you look at the overall situations of the two organizations, Caleb Williams is in a much better situation. And just like to Bart Scott's point, all Caleb Williams will have to do is play disciplined football. And I feel like he will be able to do that. Another point that Booger McFarland, or basically the rest of the Get Up crew, brought up was the fact that, are the Bears really going to allow Matt Eberflus to ruin another quarterback? My argument against that is, yes, Matt Eberflus is the head coach of the Chicago Bears. Matt Eberflus is focused on the defensive side of the football. He's a defensive head coach. This is where it comes to the play now. We hired Shane Waldron, which to me is a massive upgrade from Luke Getsy. The reason why Matt Eberflus, Ryan Poles, and the Chicago Bears hired Shane Waldron is to help, or at least do the full development of quarterback Caleb Williams. Of course, being the head coach, Matt Eberflus will be involved in the development of Caleb Williams, but it's going to be primarily Shane Waldron's job to get Caleb Williams up to speed and hopefully make him a successful quarterback in the National Football League. And they didn't bring up Shane Waldron. They just kept saying Matt Eberflus, which I understand. Matt Eberflus is the head coach of the Chicago Bears. But they brought in Shane Waldron, to me, a very good offensive coordinator, at least better than Luke Getsy, to help develop Caleb Williams. But overall, Bears fans, this was just, to me, a really interesting conversation. You see it every year. Of course, if Jayden Daniels comes out and possibly outplays Caleb Williams, which could be possible because, once again, Jayden Daniels is in a less talented situation than Caleb Williams is. So Jayden Daniels is going to have to be Superman. So you're going to really see that dual threat ability because, for the most part, he's probably going to be running for his life. He's going to have to make play after play after play because they really have no one besides Terry McLaurin. When you look at Caleb Williams' point of view, he has everything you need, right? You have a good supporting cast. You have a very good defense. You have a very good offensive coordinator in Shane Waldron as well. So by the initial look of it, it may look that like Jayden Daniels is having a better season than Caleb Williams, but the truth be told is just that Jayden Daniels got to do more for his football team in order for the Washington Commanders to succeed this next season. Also, keep in mind that the Washington Commanders and the Chicago Bears actually do play head-to-head. I believe it's on Thursday Night Football as well. So we'll get to see Caleb Williams and Jayden Daniels go head-to-head. And I promise you, Bears fans, I definitely think that Caleb Williams will outplay Jayden Daniels in that game because obviously he has a better roster around him. But I can promise you this, if Jayden Daniels comes out and plays lights out and the Washington Commanders beat the Chicago Bears, just be prepared for the arguments and the conversations that you'll see all over social media and all of these analysts saying, did the Chicago Bears make the right choice just from that one game? But Bears fans, overall, I just found this quite interesting. It's just a simple talk that we get every year. I don't think that Jayden Daniels is going to outplay Caleb Williams. There is a reason why the Chicago Bears took Caleb Williams over Jayden Daniels. And this is not a dig at Jayden Daniels. I feel like he is a really good player. I think he is going to be really good for years to come for the Washington Commanders. But once again, Caleb Williams was the number one overall choice for a lot of NFL football teams going into the NFL draft. He was the number one prospect going into the 2024 NFL draft. There was a lot of teams that would have loved to have Caleb Williams. So overall, that is my opinion. Go ahead and comment down your opinion on what the people from Get Up had to say about Caleb Williams possibly struggling, seeing that maybe Jayden Daniels may have a better season than Caleb Williams. Let me know what you're feeling down below in the comment section. But as always, Bears fans, make sure you continue to hit that subscribe button and the notification to catch all Bears content right here on the podcast. Make sure you follow me on all my social media platforms. And make sure you share this episode of KIEQ on the Mic with every single Bears fan that you know. Better than that, be back for our all-new Bears podcast right here on KIEQ on the Mic. Thanks, guys, and as always, bear down.
You've been listening to KIEQ on the Mic, a podcast all about the Chicago Bears. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell notification to catch all Bears content right here on the podcast. Thanks, guys, and bear down.